I decided to make a trip to Nashville and see John. I set up an appointment and drove to Nashville. I was there a week, and John thought that the timing would be right for me to move to Nashville and pursue a major record deal. He was right, of course. While I was there, I realized my video was causing quite a stir on Music Row. It appeared that none of the major labels could figure out how some complete unknown could have a video on Nashville Network in a prime spot between two stars like Willie and Merle by a production company no one had ever heard of from coast to coast. Mountain John, artist, and DIW Productions was completely unknown. No major labels had me in their lineup, and yet there I was. The song had not ever been played by a major FM radio station, but there I was, on Primetime Nashville Network. Oh shit, Yahoo, amen. The video was great and the song was too, and to this day I don't know how we ever did it. No money, credentials, and as broke as a 10-penny nail. None of us, from Dave Cupp to Danny Russo, had ever produced a music video. A project from nowhere was on TV 3 times a day and stayed on for 6 months. Well, Debbie and I decided that it was time for me to move to Nashville. I hated that town, and now I had to go. John offered me a room at his house for 1 year. I told him I would stay for 1 year, and if we didn't have a major deal by then, I would leave to resume my career on the world's largest unknown nightclub circuit. My nephew Brian told me he might be able to get me an audition for Opryland Park. He also said there were lots of bars to sing in. I did not want to do this. But I couldn't pass up all this PR from the video. There was a chance some record label would think my brand of entertainment was marketable. I had now been on the road for 13 or 14 or 15 years, and I was wild as hell. I drank and stayed out every night, and no one was going to calm me down. I ran 4 miles every day and chain-smoked Marlboro Reds day and night. I was as tough as the surface of the road and wasn't afraid of freezing or starving or poverty, and so I went. I told all the clubs in Seven Springs goodbye and headed south, and then west to Nashville. The road south led to Virginia Beach. I had another gig to play before I could head west to Nashville. There has always been a battle between God and the devil inside of me. I sometimes wish I had never known the difference. I think that is what happens to those people we all know who never seem to have a conscience. The people who find it easy to hurt others emotionally or financially or physically or spiritually and never think or care about the other person. I have always known the difference between right and wrong, but I have always known that we are free to choose which path to take. Freedom is a scary thing if you don't have control over yourself. Alcohol and drugs and food and sex can cause a person to lose self-control. I have experienced all of the above many times. Let me say right now that my behavior has always been an open book, and most of the lack of self-control I have experienced has been right out in the open view of everyone. For instance, when I drink, it's to get drunk. Some people are dumb enough to say they don't drink to get drunk. That's as dumb as saying you don't want an orgasm while having intercourse. There is some sort of high that will be experienced after one drink, just like one kiss or one potato chip. Admit it. Don't lie to yourself or others. You know it, I know it, and so do the politically correct assholes in this world. I wish I had a nickel for every person in a bar who has walked up to me and said, "Excuse me, Mountain John, but I have quit smoking, and I couldn't help but notice you haven't, and I was wondering if you could give me a cigarette." Buy your own, asshole. I can't afford to buy yours and mine. If you borrow one, you'll borrow four more. It's an addiction and you lose self-control. You can't say no. You probably don't drink either. But isn't that a glass of wine in your hand or a beer? Don't vote to make it illegal and then go out and do it. Are you crazy? It's your own fault, not the bartender's. It's your fault, not the grocery store clerk's. You're the one who bought that candy bar, asshole. Don't pass the buck. Take blame for the night you screwed up. I do, and 9 out of 10 times I enjoyed the hell out of it. I was always the kid who came running in the house and hollered, "Guess what I just did?" If I didn't get caught at it, I admitted it before anyone could hear about it. Be honest with yourself and others. It won't take away the guilt, but at least you're not lying. Virginia Beach is one of those places that has everything you're not supposed to do: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I've done them all in Virginia Beach. There are plenty of other towns where you can find these things also, but Virginia Beach is one where it's real easy, or let's say it was real easy in the old days. I knew it and I loved it. I pulled into Virginia Beach to play my last gig before moving on to Tennessee and ran right into some old friends with tequila and cocaine. I blew all my money and couldn't get to Nashville. Oh shit. Yahoo. Amen. The year before this, while traveling with Peter Newland, we had spent some time at Debbie's mother's farm resting up from the road, and we had gone to see a movie called The Crossroads. It was a story of a black blues writer and performer from the South and the cotton plantations who had sold his soul to the devil in order to leave the cotton fields and go play music. In order to make a deal with the devil, you had to go to the crossroads and wait, and the devil would drive up, and you would be given the chance to stay or leave. If you left, it would only be because you made a deal to give your soul to Satan after you died. If you did this, you could be what you wanted in life. Robert Johnson supposedly made the deal, but in the movie he had a chance to buy his soul back before he died. Like all Hollywood movies, he got his soul back just in the nick of time. This movie had a great impact on me, and I was afraid of losing my soul because of lack of self-control. When I drank or did drugs in those days, I did it all, and that meant I had no control at all. Fortunately, I was born with a low tolerance level to drugs and alcohol and could not party any longer than one night at a time, so I lived through it. Thank God I can't do it anymore. Some things about getting older are good. Well, I spent all my money and didn't know how I was going to get to Tennessee. Danny Russo still had a booking agency in Raleigh, and I called him, and he said, "Mountain John, I got a booking tonight outside of Rocky Gap, and it's yours if you can get there." I said, "I'm on my way, boss." I had a full tank of gas and $10. I called Debbie in tears, and she cried and said, "Can you make it?" I said, "I think so." God, I felt sick. Down the road I went. I made it to Danny's, and he handed me directions, and I thanked him and drove to Rocky Mount, North Carolina. He told me the club was the Southern Rock Club, and the band he had hired couldn't make it. It was on a corner where two major highways met. As I pulled up to the corner, I didn't see anything that looked like a club. There were 4 big cotton fields on each corner, a huge metal barn with a Southern flag painted on the front, set in the middle of one field with an old bus quite a ways away from it, and on one corner was an old Texaco station with one pump. It was sunset, and I pulled into the station. I pulled up to the pump, and an old black man came out and looked into the open window on my van and said, "What you be looking for, boy?"